Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of my show called The Democratic View. And my name is Phyllis Italiano. I'm the hostess. And today I have with me an old friend who I have called my energy and environmental guru, because this is the man I first talked to about solar power. And tell us, Izzy, a little bit about yourself. Izzy Doroski.
That's correct. Well, I'm a lifelong resident of the township of Riverhead, and I went to college upstate. And
Which one?
I went to Cortland State University, and actually I went to a community college before that, at Sullivan County Community College. And that's when I started to get interested in the subject of energy, is when during the Arab oil embargo, we couldn't get home for the weekend. And that's what made me think, wow, this is really not good.
Yeah.
So and all the animosity and all the problems there in the Middle East suddenly brought a problem to us here. So that's how I started to get interested in energy. Then when I went to Cortland State, I was a science major, so I was always into learning about energy. I took courses in physics and chemistry and geology. And then when I took a geology course, I started to learn about solar energy and alternate forms of energy. And I always said to myself, boy, I'd really like to do that to my house someday when I get a house. So that opportunity came along when my wife Jeannie and we bought a house in January of 1981. And later that summer, I installed my first solar system. It was a solar hot water system.
Wow.
And then over the many decades, I've just added to my solar systems on my house.
Well, what was the first thing that you did when you wanted to get a little bit off the grid? What did you was the first
To
thing you
save
did?
energy. Everybody, when you're saving energy, you're saving money. So the first thing we did is we put our first solar system in, actually, which is a clothesline. Okay,
So I love that line. I tell that to everybody. You put a clothesline.
It's a very effective system because it takes 4,000 watts per load of energy when you put your clothes in the dryer. It takes 4,000 watts. So that's a lot of energy you're using. Otherwise, you can just take your laundry after it gets out of the washing machine and go walk outside and hang it up on a clothesline. You could probably put up a clothesline for under $100.
I'm going to do that.
You have to. And the clothes smell better, they feel better.
Oh my God,
So
tell me about it.
It really makes a lot of sense.
Because I've had it in most of my life, and I don't have it at this house because I can't ever find two trees to do it with. But I'm just thinking to myself, I got to do it.
Or you just put up 2 poles, and you go to a hardware store, I'm sure they'll have the equipment. You can just put that up. You can do it yourself. It's really easy. But other things that people can do in the house, which we did right away, because here we get these bills in, getting these electric bills, and they're very expensive. And nowadays, they're way more expensive. So another thing that we did was we put in fluorescent bulbs. We re-insulated our attic. We put in a water-saving shower head. Eventually, we changed all the windows in our home to very energy-efficient windows. And then also, we re-insulated our attic and our siding. We put new siding on, and then we insulated it with foam insulation. So there's lots of things that people can do to save energy. Later on, we also, over the many decades later, our next solar system that we put on was a solar photovoltaic system, which is an electricity producing system, and that's a grid connected system. And that pretty much produces about 70% of the electricity for our house during the whole year. Now, I understand you put a solar system on your house also.
I did, and I'm going to tell the people here in East Hampton who are dealing with PSEG and having huge bills that my bill for the month of August, when there were 4 adults, 2 children at my house, was $11.97.
Wow, that almost sounds like the maintenance bill.
Yeah.
Because you can just get a maintenance bill.
Well, it's the hookup. It's the hookup
Right,
to
the
this.
hookup bill, so
That's
you
it.
produced all your electricity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then this month, it went up. It went up because I started, I don't want to turn on my oil heating system on the cool nights and stuff like that, so I've been using electric heaters.
Okay.
So it went up to $11.90.
Yeah, wow.
From $10.
And you own the system, you don't lease that system.
Oh, I own
right?
that system.
Yeah, okay.
I could have.
So,
I could have, and
yeah.
that's one of the reasons I went with the company that I went with, because they were the only ones that offered me that I could lease it. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go with these guys.
Now, how does it make you feel?
Are you kidding?
When you come home and you take a look at those solar panels on top of your house,
I love
how does it make you feel? Don't you feel like you're
I
independent?
swear, I swear. I absolutely love it because I know, I say to myself, I'm not hurting the earth, and that's a very important feeling, that I know I'm doing what I can for my two granddaughters to live in a better world.
Yeah.
I also drive a Prius too.
Oh, okay, we have 2 cars, and we may just drop down to 1 car someday, but we have a Prius and a Yaris, which are very energy efficient.
Yes,
In fact, we just
indeed.
got 36 miles to the gallon out here.
Yes,
We had to fill up, so we know.
I know.
And my wife writes it down every
I
single
do
time.
too.
Yeah,
I do
calculated
too.
it out.
I do too. Actually, I'm telling you the truth. I'm going to go look into a Volt. I mean, I don't have that money, but I'm going to look
Yeah.
into it.
That's an expensive car, though.
Yeah,
Well,
I know. My brother-in-law, Mr. Mel Brooks, has one. And I would love to get one myself, but
Oh.
in the future, perhaps. But so tell me, you have also worked for Suffolk County.
that's right. I work for the Suffolk County. I'm retired now. I work for the Suffolk County Department of Health Services as a senior environmental health analyst. I did inspections. I've been to so many different locations, amazing places like Brookhaven National Lab, Plum Island, the Suffolk County Jail there in Riverhead, the Gucci fireworks explosion. After they had the explosion there in 1983, I was called out the next day on emergency response to go visit that place and take samples. And I saw the bolts to the space shuttle in my job. I flew in the police helicopter out to Fisher's Island. I closed the doors to the Shoreham nuclear power plant, and I spent a lot of time at Brookhaven National Lab, including a whole year we were stationed there in 1997 after their tritium leak.
People don't know about that.
Yeah.
People don't know about that, but I know about it because I know that it's a very important thing for breast cancer. That leak made this area a place, or the area around, including Fire Island where I was, a place of many, many more cases of breast cancer than there might have been, because that's what nuclear stuff does.
Yeah.
So you were there to close Shoreham?
Yeah, that's correct. I was there. I think I closed the doors to Shoreham. I first went there when, they actually started up Shoreham and ran it in the mid-1980s when Cohauen was executive. And they actually got their license to operate the plant. And then they signed an agreement with the governor's office, and they agreed to not operate it. And then they had to decommission it. So I went there during the decommissioning period, and I ended up, I think we closed the doors to that facility sometime in the mid-90s, I would have to estimate. In the beginning, when I first used to go there, it was a buzz of activity going there. And when you go into the containment area, you would look and you would see the containment area all sectioned off with squares, and they all had numbers. And that's because the government requires them to survey every single square meter of it and record it. And it was empty when I got in there. They took all the nuclear fuel out, and then they had to remove tanks and basically clean the place up. And then one day, that was it. We shut the doors, and boom, that was it.
Can you imagine having a nuclear power place on Long Island?
Yeah, well, there's 104, I believe, in the United States operating nuclear power plants. And I think they're building 3 or 4 of them right now in the United States. I believe, if my memory serves me correct, I believe there's about 450 in the world, around that number, operating right now.
I know Germany has gotten rid of theirs.
They had the program of decommissioning them, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And, yep.
I think Fukushima really woke up a lot of people to the
It was a heck of a problem. That was amazing.
Oh, please.
That they certainly should have foreseen, because they certainly know that they get tsunamis there. And statistically, you could just do the math that they're probably over 100 years they're going to get a supermassive tsunami sometime, and that's what they got.
Yes.
So I think they should have foreseen that. And at least
Absolutely.
what got knocked out was the generators.
Yes.
So the generators got knocked out from the tsunami, which came from the earthquake. And unfortunately, the battery power can only run so long to keep the facilities cool. And the heat just generated, and it just caused all kinds of problems for the multiple units that were there.
You know, I lived in LA for a year, and during the time I was there, or perhaps not even then, it could have been when I visited, because I have family there and I visited all the time, but they were going to build a nuclear power plant right on the San Andreas Fault.
Yeah.
And
right.
there was such demonstrations. People were just absolutely screaming about it.
Yeah.
And thank God it never went up. I think it was someplace like Delgado or something like that.
You have to remember that all energy production has risk, including fossil fuels. You know, we're talking about nuclear, and but just storing fossil fuels like oil and natural gas has its own risks, and coal. So, you know, by just storing it, getting it out of the ground, mining it, refining it, and distributing it, it's going to produce some hazards and some deaths. And also from the burning of it and contributing to the carbon dioxide issue.
Yes, indeed, to the global warming.
And the other greenhouse gases that we have.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So.
And, well, we know that our solar panels are the best.
They're doing the job.
You bet.
It was a good investment.
You bet.
They weren't cheap, but mine are already paid off.
Yeah.
After
Well, you know
10
what?
years.
I was already thinking, I was thinking when I got the bill yesterday, and it was $11, and I said, how much have I saved just since about April in my bills that I have paid? I've already, you know, and when you put them on, you get a 30% tax break from the United States government.
That's right.
Your
yeah.
federal income
The
tax.
tax credit, yeah.
So I took an IRA and made it into a Roth IRA because I know how to do those kind of things. I'm smart,
right.
you know, and I didn't have to pay a lot of. I would have had to pay, you know, maybe $20,000 on something like that.
Right.
And I didn't have to pay it, and I still got back a little bit, and I have a $5,000 credit with the New York State.
Wow.
So, you know.
So there you go.
I mean, it really does, in the long run, it pays off much quicker than you think it's going to pay off.
That's right. That's right. It's a good thing to have. And everybody, all the viewers here should look into it.
Absolutely,
Getting
and
solar energy on the house.
I say that to people all the time.
There's lots of ways to do it. You can start with a clothesline. You can go to solar voltaics. You can go to solar thermal, like what I have for my hot water. That was my first system I put in. You can even go to a battery storage system, which I have a small battery storage system separate from my other grid-connected system. And even other little systems like a attic fan, a solar attic fan, that ventilates your attic when the sun hits it, and your attic gets hot when the sun hits it, and it keeps it cool. So there's all kinds of ways you can install alternate energy into your house.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things I do in the summertime, instead of turning on the air conditioning, I open the windows and the doors. You know, in East Hampton, there's always a breeze.
Yeah.
I don't think we had one hot night the whole summer.
Wow, well, in Riverhead, we are a little warmer than that, and we get a lot of humidity.
Yeah.
So I do have one air conditioner, and we do have 2 dehumidifiers, which do use electricity. And we have a pool. I have a pool in my backyard. If I had to do it nowadays, knowing what I know, I probably wouldn't have put the pool in, but I put it in 1990, and we do enjoy it. So,
I have a pool, too.
Okay.
It's called Gardner's Bay.
Okay, yeah, it's a big pool. Yep.
So now you are branching out and doing something even more.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this and how it got started.
Okay, well, I'm a science type of person. I always like to study science on my own. And
Me too.
I first got the idea to write a science fiction book when I was driving through Nevada with my wife back in 2005. And just driving through that very desolate part of Nevada, from Utah to Nevada, 500 miles. It
I know.
reminded me of a Stephen King movie. It was just so
I've
beautiful.
been there, done that.
And I said, someday I'm going to write a science fiction story. And I have to say that recently, a lot of the science fiction movies have come out that I don't like them. There seem to be all graphics
Yes.
and violence
Right.
and
A lot
sex.
of boom.
So I wanted to write something interesting involving real science. So I came up, and when I was retired, I finally got the opportunity to write my science fiction book, which is the name of it is The Inverted Mask. All right, now this is a science fiction story that takes place at a fictitious national lab on Long Island. And it involves the two main protagonists of the story are Dr. John Sanborn. He's a theoretical physicist, and he designs and builds an amazing physics experiment 900 feet below the ground. And he has a hot fiance named Dr. Marta Padlow. She's a psychiatrist. She works in the medical research building there at this national lab, which is known as Ridgewood National Laboratory. And she's conducting experiments on her own and with other collaborators, one of which is involving isomers of LSD for pain research. And you know what? They actually are. Scientists are actually doing research with isomers of LSD for pain research.
Wow.
So, yeah. So anyway, now, like any story, there are good guys and bad guys, and there were nefarious things going on at this laboratory decades beforehand. The whole story revolves around a missing scientist, a top physicist of the world that just disappears. 19 years before Dr. John Sanborn finished his project there. And it just so happens out that his research project, the theoretical physics for it, came from that missing scientist. It means all of his work was theorized by this missing top physicist of the world. And he just disappeared one day, 19 years previously. So naturally they get very curious about it because Dr. Emery Hillcraft is the one who disappeared. He did all the physics for it, so John's very fascinated by his work and his books and his research papers. So they keep looking into the mystery of what happened to him. And along the way, they unravel Dr. Hillcraft's amazing research involving quantum physics. And then
Quantum physics, that's a phrase that makes me shudder. That seems so complicated.
yeah, well, that's the study at the atomic and subatomic level that scientists study. And the things that they're finding out with quantum physics is that it's weirder than you could have ever thought. That reality is stranger than they could have ever thought. That reality is not totally objective as we think it is. That it's more unpredictable and subjective, and that our consciousness, and a part of my book also deals with metaphysical aspects to life and reality, all right? And that our consciousness actually has something to do with reality. And it's amazing that physicists, top physicists of the world, are actually finding that out, that there has something to do with our consciousness when we make the conscious observation. Wow. Yeah, they've done some amazing experiments over the last 100 years that's basically blown their minds. And one of them, which is the classic double slit experiment that they shoot. If you take a piece of cardboard, cut two slits in it, you show a flashlight light through it, and then you look on the back, on the wall, what would you see? You'd think you'd see two lights, right? But you don't. You see five. In fact, right in back of the hole, you don't even see a light. And then that really drove them crazy. And then they went on to do more sophisticated experiments.
I'm going to do that when I get home.
Go ahead and give it a try.
I am?
All right, and then they go, wait, let's see what's going on. We have the ability to shoot one photon of light through, all right, because light's made up of particles known as photons.
Yes, yes.
So they came up with these lasers, sophisticated devices, where they try to shoot one photon at both slits. And what do you think happens?
I don't
It goes through both. It's like almost clones itself and goes through both. And then they get the wave pattern again. They get the 5-slit wave pattern. And then they've done even more exotic experiments that have just totally shown them that reality is very strange and has something to do with our observation of it. That's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. He even said that. That was a famous German scientist back in the, I think it was in the 30s, Heisenberg. And he said that our actual active measurement actually has something to, it interferes with the process of actually reality formulating. And so anyway, but the book actually is, it's a book that involves mystery, suspense, action, and romance. And it's a very interesting story. I put a lot of real science into it. I did hundreds and hundreds of hours of research into this book. And actually the book surprised me actually, because I had the way I did it, I did this concept mapping. I had all these concepts for the book, and I was piecing them together when I needed them. And then the book took me to an area that I never thought it would. It was just an amazing experience writing the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah. So, by the way, I have a website. If anybody wants to find out, the book is available, it's published and available on Amazon. And I do have a website that is, if anybody wants to go on their computer and visit the website, it's theinvertedmask.com. Theinvertedmask.com.
Theinvertedmask.com. How did you get the title?
That's you know what? Hardly anybody ever asks me that. And that title is an indirect reference to a term in psychiatry, which is a very important part of the book. Because remember, Dr. Marta Padlow is a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And she's
a girl.
She is. She's a beautiful girl, and she's a beautiful psychiatrist. She's also a physicist. She got a master's in physics, and then she went on to become a psychiatrist. So, and she also is the official health physicist for Dr. John Sanborn's experiment. When he runs it, it's known as the Quest Project. All right, it's 900 feet below the ground. Now, people may think that seems odd, but physicists build experiments below the Earth way farther down than 900 feet. They've got an experiment in Canada that is down about 8,000 feet. It's not only down 8,000 feet, then you have to go about another 5,000 feet horizontally to get to it. It's a neutrino experiment. We're trying to find these exotic particles in the universe known as neutrinos. It's a neutrino detector. They're very rare. I mean, actually, they're not that rare, but the problem with them trying to measure it is that the cosmic rays coming from the sun and throughout the universe bombard the Earth, so they have to go deep in order to filter them out. That's the same with the Quest Project.
Aren't neutrinos, atomic particles of some kind?
They're particles that were, I believe, formed during the Big Bang. Eventually, when the singularity point, all right, where physicists believe that our universe came from, eventually it was pure energy, and then eventually matter formed out, condensed out of pure energy, and that's one of the leftovers is neutrinos. Some feel that it may be contributing to what's known as dark matter in the universe. All right, so anyway, that's pretty much the book. It's a pretty fascinating book. It's really a mystery book, almost like a Sherlock Holmes mystery book wrapped in a science fiction. And there is some action in it. There's definitely amount of, it's amazing how it actually turned out to be a bit of a romance story. I had no intention to write a bit of a romance story, but it turned out to be like a soft romance story.
Well, look, that's the way it is when you write. When you write, you start to write, and it takes you wherever it's going to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost a bit uncontrollable.
Yeah. I just have to say, I had two fantastic helpers. All right. I hired a developmental editor. All right. And after I had 200 pages, I knew I needed somebody to help me get the most out of my verbiage. So I hired Denise Schnittman as my developmental editor, proofreader, and writing consultant. And Lourdes Bernard, she works for a major newspaper on Long Island. And my book is her 30th book that she edited. She was my book editor. So I just wanted to mention them.
That's wonderful. So what are you going to do with this now?
Well, I'm marketing it. I'm promoting it, marketing. I'm going to give a talk at the Riverhead Library December 20th. It's a Saturday at 1:30 in the afternoon. So if anybody's interested, I'm going to do a book signing and give a little talk about the book. It's going to be in the basement at the library. And so I'm advertising it. 1/3 of the book takes place in the Catskill Mountains of New York. All right, I'll give you one little secret from the book. That's where Dr. Emory Hillcraft had a house. He had a house and a family up in the Catskill Mountains. Dr. John Sanborn and his fiancée find out. So they do visit up in the Catskills. Actually, the book begins in the Catskills, in the middle is in the Catskills, and it ends in the Catskills. But about 2/3 is on Long Island at the Ridgewood National Laboratory.
Wow, that sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
I've heard of a national laboratory out here.
Well, I have to say that part of the inspiration for the book came from my many years. I went to Brookhaven National Laboratory, and I did environmental inspection work there, and I was stationed there with 2 others. We had our own office there in 1997 after the tritium leak. So that was from their high-flux beam reactor that they had there. Brookhaven Lab had actually 3 reactors there. They had a small medical reactor. They had the Brookhaven Graphite Research Reactor. That was the first peacetime reactor built in the United States. That was built in 1948,
Wow.
that reactor. And then they had the high-flux beam reactor.
Wow.
So, and that's the one that leaked the tritium from their spent rod storage pool.
And I also know that the head of that lab didn't admit to that. Am I not correct on that?
He admitted to it?
He did not.
I'm actually on the Citizen Advisory Committee there. I go every month. And they definitely...
Now they're on top of it.
They definitely are straightforward with what went on there. Any information anybody wants to know about all the environmental issues they had there, they can just Google it and just go online and they could find it. They could even go on the Brookhaven National Lab website, and they could probably find pretty much all the information.
Izzy, my dear, thank you so much for coming.
Fantastic
and
being here.
We're going to
The Inverted Mask.
Go and look for this book.
It's a good book. Yeah, I think you'll like it.
I can't wait to
Yeah,
read it.
hope you come to my signing at the Riverhead Library, December 20th.